I'm Dana.
Hi, I'm Anna.
And we're gonna draw a worm with you today. For this activity, you're gonna need a piece of paper and some colored pencils.
And I'll be talking along with you and narrating. If you need to pause the video to take extra time to draw any parts, that's totally okay. All right, let's do this. Woo!
Join us as we draw a worm and show you how food moves through their body. Worm bodies are made up of different segments. We're not going to draw this today, since we'll have other internal organs to draw, but this is why their bodies appear to have rings. First, we start with a simple worm shape. Make sure to include a small opening for their mouth. Then we can add their food, some leaves, plant matter, dirt, whatever you'd like your worm to be eating. Dana is labeling hers so that we know what the worm is eating. Let's label the mouth too, where the food enters the worm, just like us. Unlike us, worms don't have teeth. Instead, they have something called a crop, which is an organ inside of them that stores and mixes food around. Let's draw both the crop and the gizzard, which is where the food moves to after it's processed in the crop. The gizzard is full of strong muscles that continue breaking down the worm's food. Before we continue the process of food moving through our worm, let's draw the clitellum. This is the segment of the worm that's a bit bigger than the rest of its body, and every adult worm has one. It's the worm's reproductive organ. Just like us, worms have skin to protect their organs. If you've ever held a worm, you might know that their skin is much slimier than ours. That's because worms breathe through their skin. Having moist skin also allows worms to move through their burrows with ease. Dana is adding small bristles on the underside of the worm called setae. These also help the worms move in their tunnels and burrows, sort of like feet. Now, I'm sure you're curious what happens to the food after going through the gizzard. The worm finishes digesting its food in the intestines, and the food comes out as poop. As the worm moves around its burrow, it leaves poop called castings that can help add nutrients to the soil. This is why so many gardeners love worms. Their poop makes for healthy soil. The castings come out of the worm's anus, which is at the opposite end of the worm from the mouth. If you didn't have the chance to label any parts of your worm, now's your chance. Another really amazing thing about worms is that they have 5 hearts. Dana isn't going to draw these because she doesn't have the space to, but if you'd like to add your worm's hearts to your drawing, you're welcome to. Dana will show us how food moves through our worm. Now that we're familiar with the anatomy of a worm, let's learn about how a worm fits into their environment. We'll start by drawing the soil line, since worms spend most of their time underground. Let's add some flowers growing above ground, but be sure to leave some space for other organisms we will add later. Your flowers don't have to look like Dana's. Maybe you have a favorite flower? Now let's draw the worm tunnels, how they move about underground. Don't forget to put a few worms in those tunnels, dropping castings as they eat plant matter and move about to fertilize the soil. As worms move through tunnels, they create space for water and oxygen to move through the soil, which is taken up by the roots of our flowers, which we can draw now. The nutrients their castings add to the soil also help the plants grow. Dana is now showing how the tunnels allow rainwater to move through the soil. Beyond all of these great things worms do for plants and soil, they're also a tasty meal for a lot of different organisms. Let's draw some of the worm's natural predators, a bird and a frog. Predators are anything that could eat our worm. Can you think of any other worm predators? We've drawn our worm ecosystem. Are there any other things you'd like to add to your picture? We'd love to see your finished products. We hope that you now know something new about worms that you didn't already know. Next time you're outside and find a good place to dig in the soil, see if you can find any worms. Worms also move above ground when it's raining so that they don't get flooded in their tunnels. The rainy days ahead of us might make for perfect worm scouting days. Have fun!